The bulldozer showed up at 7 a.m. I woke up to the sound of diesel engines and 6 guys in hard hats walking toward my cabin with a tow truck behind them. The HOA president, let's call her Brenda, was standing by her white Escalade, arms crossed, watching like she'd already won. "You were warned," she said. 30 days. Time's up. I was recording everything on my phone. The foreman walked up and told me I had 5 minutes to get my stuff out before they demolished the structure. That's when I asked him one question. "Did anyone show you the deed?" He looked confused. I held up my phone with a photo of a document from 1959. "This cabin sits on land my grandfather bought, 847 acres. Your boss? She's my tenant. Has been since 1962. The foreman's face went blank. Brenda started yelling something about squatters and fake documents. Then the sheriff's deputy pulled up, because I'd called him the second I heard that engine. And that's when Brenda realized she'd made a terrible, expensive mistake. But let me back up. 3 months earlier, this whole mess started with one piece of certified mail. My name is Marcus Webb. I'm 62 years old, retired civil engineer from Denver. Spent 35 years designing water infrastructure, treatment plants, pipe systems, things that need to work, right? Or people don't get clean water. I'm good at reading blueprints, understanding regulations, checking if someone actually filed the paperwork they're supposed to file. That skill set's going to matter later. My wife, Sarah, died 3 years ago. Cancer. We'd planned to retire up here together, spend our golden years in my grandfather's cabin. But life had other plans. Then in January 2024, my grandfather Harold passed away at 98. World War II vet, tough as nails, lived alone in that cabin until the very end. His will was simple. One sentence, really. Everything to Marcus, who I thought everything meant the cabin and maybe 7 acres around it. Enough for some peace and quiet. I moved in February 2025. The cabin's rustic, but it's not some shack. My grandfather built it himself in 1947 with lumber he milled on site. It's got permitted septic, a legal well from 1961, solar panels I installed in 2020, satellite internet. Everything's up to code. I wasn't hiding, I wasn't squatting. I was living in my family's home, trying to process grief in a place that meant something. 3 weeks in, I'm on the porch one morning with coffee and I hear this engine. White Cadillac Escalade, brand new, rolling up my gravel driveway. Out steps this woman, late 40s, blonde highlights, the kind of outfit that costs more than my truck. She doesn't introduce herself. She just looks at my cabin like it's a dead animal on the side of the road and says, "You can't just live here. This is a planned community." I set down my coffee. I own this cabin. Been in my family since 1940. She actually laughed, not a polite laugh, a condescending one. "Honey," she says, "this entire valley is HOA property. That," she waves at my cabin like she's swatting a fly, "that structure violates our architectural standards." Then she pulls out this document, 47 pages, covenants, conditions, and restrictions, the HOA Bible. She flips to section 4.2 and points. "All structures require board approval. Yours was never submitted." I tried to explain about the inheritance, about my grandfather. She cut me off. "I don't care about your grandfather. We have rules. You're in violation." Her name, I learned later, was Brenda Collinsworth, HOA president since 2019. Former real estate agent married to a bank VP, the kind of person who gets a thrill from being in charge. And she ran that HOA like a fiefdom. 2 weeks after that porch visit, I got the letter. Certified mail, required signature. Official HOA letterhead, attorney CC'd, Douglas Pritchett, Esquire. The subject line read, "Notice of violation and intent to remove unauthorized structure." It claimed my cabin was a blight, a health hazard, an unauthorized occupancy on HOA common property. The demand was simple. Remove the structure within 30 days or face $500 per day in fines plus forced removal at my expense. They'd file a lien against the property. They'd take legal action. They'd involve the sheriff if necessary. It was signed by Brenda and her attorney. 30 days to demolish my family's legacy. I sat on my porch that evening, letter in my hands, watching the sun drop behind the ridge. I thought about my grandfather. Harold Webb wasn't a complicated man. He didn't have a lot of money, but he had principles. He used to tell me, when someone plays dirty, you don't get dirty back, you get smarter. He believed in rules. He believed in documentation. He believed that if you do things right, the system protects you, so I decided. No yelling, no drama, no angry phone calls. I'm an engineer. When I hit a problem, I gather data. Time to find out exactly what Brenda thought she owned. Day 12 of my 30-day countdown, I woke up to the sound of machinery. Not the bulldozer, that comes later. This was different. Beeping, hydraulic hiss, the clank of metal on metal. I walked outside and saw a contractor crew at the valley entrance installing a gate. Big steel frame, keypad entry, the works. A sign bolted to the post. Private property, Pine Ridge Estates, residents only. The gate was a quarter-mile down the road. My driveway was on the other side. I drove down there. The contractor was tightening bolts, didn't even look up. "Excuse me," I said. "What's going on?" He gestured at the gate. "New security measure, orders from Mrs. Collinsworth." "This is the only road to my cabin," I said. He shrugged. "You'll need to contact the HOA office for an access code. I live here." "Not my problem, buddy." He went back to his wrench. I could have argued, could have made a scene. Instead, I got back in my truck and drove 8 miles into town to the HOA office. It's in a strip mall, next to a nail salon. The receptionist looked up from her computer. "Access codes are only available to property owners in good standing," she said. "I am a property owner," I said. She clicked through her screen. "Not according to our records. You're listed as unauthorized occupant." That's when Brenda came out of her office. She had this smile, the kind where you know the person's enjoying your frustration. "Still here?" she said. "The clock is ticking, Marcus. 18 days left. You can't block my access," I said. "That's illegal." "Then sue us," she said. "Oh wait, you can't afford to. Our attorney will bury you in motions before you even get a hearing." She went back into her office. Door clicked shut. I sat in my truck in that parking lot for a while, staring at the steering wheel. Brenda thought she had all the power. The HOA, the attorney, the gate, the fines. She thought I was just some old guy who'd fold under pressure. But here's the thing about engineers. We don't guess. We measure. We verify. We check the damn paperwork. I drove straight to the county clerk's office. One question. Can you show me every document related to ownership in Pine Ridge Valley? The woman behind the counter at the county clerk's office was maybe 70, gray hair, reading glasses on a chain. She looked at me over those glasses when I said my name. "Harold Webb's grandson," she said. "I remember when your grandfather recorded that lease." Her name was Rita Kowalski. 40 years in that office, retired now, but she volunteered twice a week because, in her words, somebody's got to know where the bodies are buried. She disappeared into a back room and came out with a file box, the old kind, cardboard, held together with rubber bands. "Pine Ridge Valley, 1955 to present," she said, setting it on the counter. "Most people don't know how to read these old surveys, but your grandfather was meticulous." She pulled out a document, heavy paper, edges yellowed, recorded deed from 1959, grantee, Harold Webb, legal description, 847 acres. I stared at that number. "Wait," I said. 847? Rita smiled like she'd been waiting for that reaction. "The HOA thinks they own this land," she said. "They don't. They lease it." She pulled out another document. Carbon copy, barely legible, dated March 1962, ground lease agreement between Harold Webb and Pine Ridge Development Corporation. Term, 99 years. Annual rent, $12,000. I photographed every page with my phone. Rita walked me through it. The lease had all these clauses. My grandfather reserved a 7-acre parcel around the cabin, kept full mineral and water rights, maintained right of access. And then there was Clause 12, Section B. I read it 3 times. Lease shall be voidable at lessor's discretion if lessee substantially interferes with lessor's quiet enjoyment or access rights. Rita tapped that clause with her finger. "That gate they just installed," she said, "that's interference with access. Your grandfather put that clause in for exactly this reason. We spent 3 hours in that office. When I walked out, my phone had 200 photos and I had Rita's cell number. You're going to need a property lawyer," she'd said. "I know just the guy. His name was Jim Patterson." She called him right there. He told me to bring everything to his office the next morning. Last thing he said on the phone, "If what Rita's telling me is true, this is going to be fun." I drove back to the valley that evening with a head full of documents and a plan forming. But first, I had to deal with that gate. It was locked when I got there, keypad glowing in the dusk. I sat in my truck for a minute thinking about my options. Then I opened the glove box and pulled out a pair of bolt cutters. I keep them for fence repairs. Tonight, they had a different purpose. I was halfway through cutting the lock when headlights lit me up. Sheriff's patrol car, Deputy Frank Morales. I'd seen him around town. He got out slowly, hand near his belt. "Evening," he said. "Want to tell me what you're doing?" Before I could answer, another car pulled up fast, white Escalade. Brenda jumped out like the gate was on fire. "Officer, he's destroying HOA property." Deputy Morales held up a hand. "Ma'am, let him speak." I showed him the photocopy of the deed Rita had given me. Deputy, this gate blocks legal access to my property. Under Colorado Revised Statutes Title 38, Article 1, Section 101, that's unlawful interference with property rights. He looked at the document for a long moment. Brenda was practically vibrating. That's a fake, she said. He's a squatter. The deputy handed the paper back to me. Ma'am, if this deed's authentic, and it looks recorded to me, he's got at minimum an easement. You can't block property access. This is HOA property, Brenda said. Then take it to court, Morales said. But this gate stays open until a judge tells me otherwise. He nodded at me. I finished cutting the lock. The gate swung open with a creak. Brenda stood there, face red, fists clenched. She didn't say anything else, just got in her Escalade and drove off fast enough to kick up gravel. The deputy waited until she was gone. You got documentation for everything you just told me? He asked. Every page, I said. He almost smiled. Good, you're going to need it. Next morning, I drove to Jim Patterson's office, small downtown practice, second floor above a coffee shop. Jim was mid-50s, gray beard, office cluttered with case files, and a dog bed in the corner, even though I didn't see a dog. He's the kind of lawyer who takes cases because he likes the fight, not the fee. I laid out every photo on his desk. The deed, the lease, the survey maps. He went through them slowly, making notes, cross-referencing dates. Finally, he sat back and let out a low whistle. Holy hell, he said. You own the entire valley. They're your tenants. He explained it like this. My grandfather leased the land to a development corporation in 1962. That corporation built the homes and sold them between 1995 and 2010. When the HOA incorporated in 2010, they filed documents claiming fee simple ownership of common areas. But they never researched the title history. The land was never transferred. It was leased, and that lease is still active, expires in 2061. Here's the beautiful part, Jim said. Their covenants and restrictions unenforceable against you. You're the landlord. They can't evict the landlord. What about their eviction notice? I asked. Jim laughed. They have zero authority. In fact, by restricting your access with that gate, they violated Clause 12 of the lease. You could terminate the whole agreement if you wanted. We spent another hour drafting a response letter to their attorney, Douglas Pritchett. The key points: I'm the fee simple owner of 847 acres. The HOA sits on leased land. Their eviction notice is void. The gate violated the lease. Demands: remove gate, cease harassment, acknowledge ownership. We attach certified copies of everything: deed, lease, survey. The letter ended: please advise your client they are tenants, not landlords. Act accordingly. Jim sent it certified mail and email. What happens when Brenda gets this? I asked. He grinned. Ever seen someone's world collapse in real time? Check your email in 48 hours? 36 hours later, my inbox pinged. Email from Douglas Pritchett, attorney at law. Subject line: alleged ownership claims, response. I opened it. The tone was dismissive from the first sentence. Pritchett wrote that his client disputes the authenticity of the documents provided, and argued that even if such a lease existed, it has expired through adverse possession under Colorado law. He claimed the HOA had maintained the property for over 15 years, which constituted continuous, open, and notorious use, enough to claim ownership. He concluded, the original eviction timeline stands. Remove the structure within the remaining time frame or face legal action and daily fines as previously stated. I forwarded it to Jim. He called me 10 minutes later. Can they actually claim adverse possession? I asked. Not a chance, Jim said. Adverse possession requires hostile use, meaning without permission. They're paying rent under a lease. Well, they're supposed to be. That's not hostile. That's contractual. Pritchett's blowing smoke because he knows they screwed up. So what do? We wait, Jim said. They're going to escalate, and every time they do, they dig the hole deeper. He was right. That same week, Brenda called an emergency HOA board meeting. I wasn't invited, obviously, but Tom Bradshaw, one of the board members, sent me the minutes afterward. Tom was a retired accountant, the kind of guy who actually reads financial statements, and he'd been skeptical of Brenda's version of events from the start. The meeting agenda had one item: the squatter problem. According to the minutes, Brenda pitched the board hard. She claimed I was running a scam with forged documents trying to steal the community. She proposed doubling down, hire a private investigator to dig into my background, increase fines to $1,000 per day, and pursue an immediate injunction to remove me from the property. The board voted 4-1 in favor. Tom was the lone dissent. In the margin of the minutes he forwarded me, he'd written in pen, Something smells wrong here. Brenda authorized $50,000 from the HOA's legal budget to crush this. $50,000 for a fight they couldn't win. But Brenda wasn't thinking about winning anymore. She was thinking about control. Then came the social media campaign. Brenda created a private Facebook group, Protect Pine Ridge Property Values. Within 2 days, it had 60 members, most of the HOA. She posted photos of my cabin with captions like, "This blight is destroying our home values," and "Squatter refuses to leave despite legal notices." The comments section was a war zone. About 60% of the members supported her, things like, "Our homes are investments," and "If we let this slide, we're no better than a trailer park." 30% were skeptical. "Has anyone actually verified who owns what?" And "Why won't the HOA show us their title documents?" 10% supported me, mostly people who'd had run-ins with Brenda before. One comment from Brenda went viral inside the group. "If we let people live in shacks, we're no better than a trailer park." Someone screenshot it and forwarded it to me. I was now the public villain of a community I didn't even know existed 4 months ago. A week later, I heard a knock at my door. County building inspector, clipboard in hand. "Anonymous complaint," he said. "Unpermitted structure." I showed him inside. He checked everything. Septic permit from 2018. Well permit from 1961. Electrical work on the solar system from 2020. The structure itself pre-code but legally non-conforming. He spent an hour taking photos and notes. Finally, he handed me a signed form. "No violations found." He looked tired. "Off the record," he said. "I've had 12 complaints filed about properties in Pine Ridge Estates this year. Yours is the first one that's actually up to code." "Let me guess who filed the complaint," I said. He didn't answer, but he didn't have to. As he walked to his truck, I saw a white Escalade parked down the road, just sitting there, watching. That night, I got a text from an unknown number. "Stop fighting this, you'll lose everything, including that cabin. Last warning." I screenshot it and sent it to Jim. He replied, "Good. Documented threats. We're building a case." But what came next made threats look like love letters. Early morning, maybe 5:30 a.m., I woke up to silence. That's what got my attention. The silence. The cabin's water system has this low hum, the pressure tank cycling every few hours. It wasn't humming. I went to the kitchen sink and turned the tap. Nothing, not even a drip. I threw on boots and went outside. The well housing is about 50 yards from the cabin, concrete pad with a metal cover. The cover was off. That was the first sign. The second sign was the tire tracks in the mud. Fresh, deep treads, something heavy. I lifted the cover all the way and looked inside. The pressure tank was destroyed. Not broken. Destroyed. Someone had taken a sledgehammer or a steel bar and just beaten it until the weld split and the tank crumpled like a soda can. Water was pooling at the bottom of the housing. I called Deputy Morales. He showed up 40 minutes later with a camera and an evidence kit. He photographed the damage, the tire tracks, measured the tread pattern. "Looks like someone really didn't want you to have water," he said. "Any idea who?" I showed him the security camera footage. I'd installed cameras 2 weeks earlier, after the threatening text. The video was grainy. It was dark, no moon, but you could see a vehicle roll up at 3 a.m., white, boxy, SUV-sized. The plates were obscured, either covered or muddied. Someone got out, spent maybe 10 minutes at the well, then drove off. You couldn't see their face, but you could see the vehicle. Morales studied the footage. "I know that vehicle," he said carefully. "But without clear plates or a face, I can't make an arrest." "How much to fix this?" I asked. The plumber I called later that day quoted $3,800. New pressure tank, new wiring, labor. I sent the invoice to Jim Patterson. "This is criminal," I told him. "Can we press charges?" "Not without definitive proof," Jim said. "But let's talk about something else. Let's talk about water rights." Jim brought in a consultant, Angela Ruiz, water rights expert. She'd worked for the state engineer's office for 20 years. I showed her the property documents Rita had given me. Angela went straight to a certificate I hadn't paid much attention to. Water Rights Certificate number 47W1961, filed with the Colorado Division of Water Resources. Harold Webb, Senior Appropriator, Pine Ridge Aquifer, 50 acre-feet annually, filed November 1961. "This is huge," Angela said. "Your grandfather has senior rights on this aquifer. That means he was first. And in Colorado, water law is first in time, first in right." "What does that mean practically?" I asked. She pulled up a map on her laptop, showed me the aquifer boundaries. "Every home in Pine Ridge Estates draws from this same aquifer. They filed their water rights in 1995 when the development started. You filed in 1961. During drought or disputes, senior rights get priority. Jim leaned forward. So Marcus could legally restrict their water access? During a declared shortage, or if his rights are being impaired, yes, Angela said. He has legal standing to curtail junior users. I shook my head. I wouldn't do that. There are families living there. Jim smiled. They don't need to know you wouldn't do it. They just need to know you could. We drafted a letter, Notice of Senior Water Rights, sent to the HOA and individually to all 73 homeowners. The letter explained that I held senior water rights from 1961, that the HOA's water use was junior, and that technically I could restrict their access during disputes or shortages. It included a copy of the 1961 certificate. The letter ended. Mr. Webb has no current intention to exercise these rights, provided all harassment ceases immediately. We sent it on a Friday. By Monday, the homeowner group chat was on fire. I know because 3 different people forwarded me screenshots. Is this real? Can he actually cut our water? Why didn't our title company catch this? Brenda, what the hell is going on? Brenda's response in the group chat. This is scare tactics. He's bluffing. Stay the course. But Tom Bradshaw, the board member who'd been skeptical, posted a reply with a link to the state water database. I looked it up. Certificate's real. Public record. He's not bluffing. The chat went quiet after that. That's when the journalist reached out. Tyler Chen, reporter for the Rocky Mountain Tribune. He'd heard about the dispute through courthouse sources. Someone had flagged Jim's filings as potentially newsworthy. Tyler called me on a Tuesday. I'm doing a series on HOA overreach, he said. Your story fits perfectly. Would you be willing to talk? I hesitated. Jim had told me to keep things quiet until we had a strategy, but Tyler said something that changed my mind. I'll need documentation to verify everything. I won't publish anything I can't confirm, but if this is what it looks like, an HOA trying to evict the guy who actually owns their land, people need to know. I met him at a coffee shop the next day. I brought copies of everything. The deed, the lease, the water rights certificate, the eviction letter, photos of the damaged well, the threatening text. Tyler took notes for 2 hours. He recorded our conversation with my permission. At the end, he sat back and just stared at his notepad. This is incredible, he said. When can you publish? I asked. 2 weeks. I need to verify everything with the county, interview the other side, get legal review. But this is going to run, and when it does, it's going to be big. 2 weeks. In the meantime, Brenda made her biggest mistake yet. And this time, it was going to be very, very public. The article dropped on a Thursday morning. Rocky Mountain Tribune, front page of the regional section. HOA president tries to evict actual landowner from his own valley. The subtitle read, Local man holds deed to entire 847-acre development. HOA didn't know. Tyler had done his homework. The article included the full timeline with scanned images of the deed and lease agreement, interviews with me and Rita Kowalski and Deputy Morales, and a sidebar titled, 5 Things to Check Before Buying in an HOA. The HOA's official response was 2 words, no comment, which made them look guilty. By noon, the article was on Reddit. Someone posted it to r/legal advice and r/fuckaway. 5,000 upvotes in 6 hours. Then it jumped to Twitter, now called X, but nobody really calls it that. A thread breaking down the story got 2.3 million views. TikTok lawyer accounts started making explainer videos. Biggest HOA fail ever, and she tried to evict her own landlord. The comments were brutal. This is why I'll never buy in an HOA. Karen got exactly what she deserved. Dude could literally evict the entire HOA and he's just asking to be left alone. How do you not check property records before threatening someone? Local TV stations picked up the story by Friday. News crews showed up at the valley entrance with cameras. They caught Brenda leaving her house. She rolled down her window just enough to say no comment before driving away fast. That clip went viral too. 20-second video of a woman in oversized sunglasses refusing to answer questions. The internet made her a meme by Saturday. Inside the community, the reaction was split. About 20% still supported Brenda, people posting in the Facebook group that the media was biased, that I'd somehow manipulated the story. 50% were confused and wanted answers. Why didn't the board tell us about this? And, did anyone verify our property titles? 30% had turned against Brenda completely. She lied to us. And, she wasted our HOA fees on a fight she can't win. Then something unexpected happened. 22 homeowners signed a petition. Request for special HOA meeting to review leadership and legal situation. The HOA bylaws said that 25% of homeowners could force a special meeting. 73 homes in the development. 25% is 19 signatures. They had 22. Tom Bradshaw led the effort. He delivered the petition to the HOA office on Monday morning. The demands were clear: full disclosure of the legal situation, independent title review, and a vote on Brenda's leadership. Brenda sent an email response to the board that night. Someone leaked it to me within an hour. This is a witch hunt orchestrated by a con artist and enabled by traitors. That email got leaked to Tyler Chen, too. He published a follow-up article. By Wednesday, the board had no choice. They scheduled the special meeting for Friday evening, 7 p.m. at the community center, 10 days from the article publication to public confrontation. Jim called me that Wednesday night. "This is your chance to speak directly to the community," he said. "But be ready. Brenda won't go down without a fight." He was right, because before that meeting could happen, she tried one last desperate move. 6 days before the special meeting. 7 a.m. I already told you about the bulldozer, the tow truck, the foreman, Brenda standing by her Escalade. What I didn't tell you was how calculated it was. She'd hired the crew under the pretense that the structure was abandoned. Told them it was an unauthorized shed on HOA property, that she had board approval for removal. The foreman had a work order signed by Brenda and stamped with the HOA seal. When Deputy Morales made them leave, the foreman was confused, almost apologetic. "Lady told us it was legal," he said. Morales took his statement. Attempted destruction of property. Criminal trespass. Brenda drove off before he could question her. I went straight to Jim's office. I was angrier than I'd been through this whole thing. Jim let me vent for 5 minutes, then he held up a hand. "She just handed us grounds for lease termination," he said. He pulled out the 1962 lease agreement, flipped to page 7, clause 12, B. He read it aloud. "This lease shall be voidable at lessor's discretion if lessee substantially interferes with lessor's quiet enjoyment or access rights." "Attempted forced eviction," Jim said. "That's substantial interference, textbook definition." "What happens if we terminate the lease?" I asked. "The land reverts to you. All improvements, roads, utilities, the homes themselves, they're on your land. The HOA entity would essentially dissolve." I thought about that. 73 families, people who'd bought homes in good faith, not knowing any of this. "I don't want to evict innocent people," I said. "You won't," Jim said. "But the HOA doesn't know that. We draft a notice of lease termination. Give them 90 days to cure the violations. And if they don't cure, you become direct landlord to every homeowner. The HOA as an entity ceases to have authority." We spent 3 hours drafting the letter. Notice of default and intent to terminate ground lease. It listed every violation: restricting access with the gate, harassment via eviction notice, destruction of property, the well, attempted illegal eviction. It cited clause 12B and gave the HOA 90 days to cure by 1. Removing Brenda as president, 2. Acknowledging my ownership in writing, 3. Paying 5 years of back rent at current market rate, about $25,000 per year, total $125,000, 4. Ceasing all harassment permanently. If they didn't cure within 90 days, the lease would terminate. I would become the direct landlord. The letter concluded, "Mr. Webb has no desire to disrupt homeowners' lives. However, continued harassment by HOA leadership leaves no alternative." We sent it certified mail to the HOA board, the HOA attorney Douglas Pritchett, all 73 homeowners individually, and the county clerk for the record. Jim also sent a copy to Tyler Chen with an embargo. Don't publish until after the special meeting. "What will Brenda do when she gets this?" I asked. Jim leaned back in his chair. "Either she'll resign quietly or she'll fight. If she fights..." He didn't finish the sentence. He didn't need to. The special meeting was in 4 days, and I had a feeling the community center was going to be standing room only. Friday, 7 p.m. The Pine Ridge Community Center is a single-story building with a meeting hall that normally holds 80 people. Tonight there were at least 150. 68 of the 73 homeowners showed up. Local media, Tyler Chen and 2 TV news crews, county officials, 2 sheriff's deputies stationed by the doors in case things got out of hand, curious locals who'd read the article and wanted to see how it ended. The board sat at a long table up front, Brenda in the center, flanked by 4 board members and attorney Douglas Pritchett. Brenda looked calm, too calm. She was wearing a blazer, hair perfect, like she was going to a business meeting instead of a trial. I sat in the 3rd row with Jim Patterson. We had a laptop, a projector, and a folder full of documents.
Brenda called the meeting to order at 7:05. She banged the gavel twice. "This meeting was called by petition," she said. "We'll hear the petition, then vote on any motions." Tom Bradshaw stood up. He was holding the petition with 22 signatures. "We're here for answers," he said. "We want to know who actually owns this land." Brenda gestured to Pritchett. "Our attorney will address the baseless claims made by Mr. Webb." Pritchett stood. He had a PowerPoint presentation ready. First slide, adverse possession under Colorado law. He argued that the documents I'd provided were questionable in authenticity, and that even if the 1962 lease existed, it had expired through adverse possession. He cited case law. 15 years of continuous open and notorious use constitutes ownership. He showed photos of the HOA's maintenance work, paved roads, landscaped common areas, a new community center built in 2015. "The HOA has maintained this property for over 15 years, Pritchett said. "Under Colorado law, that maintenance constitutes adverse possession. The lease, if it ever existed, is void." Brenda took over. "We've invested millions into this community," she said. "Roads, utilities, infrastructure. We've paid property taxes. We've maintained everything. That's ownership, and now Mr. Webb is trying to steal it with forged documents and scare tactics." She looked directly at me. "If we let this con artist win, your property values will collapse. Do you want to be tenants in your own homes?" A few people nodded. A man in the back shouted, "Are we already tenants?" The room got loud. Brenda banged the gavel. Tom Bradshaw stood again. "We invited Mr. Webb to present his evidence," he said. "I think we should hear him out." Brenda looked like she wanted to refuse, but there were too many people watching. She waved a hand. "Fine, let him talk." I walked to the front of the room. Jim handed me the laptop. I connected it to the projector. First slide, the 1959 warranty deed. "This is the deed showing my grandfather purchased 847 acres in 1959 for $8,000, I said. "It's recorded in County Deed Book 47, page 890. You can verify it yourselves at the clerk's office tomorrow." I showed the chain of title. Harold Webb to the estate of Harold Webb in 2024, then to me. Recorded, stamped, official. "My grandfather didn't lease this land because he was desperate for money," I said. "He leased it because he wanted families to live here. He grew up poor. He wanted other people to have what he didn't, a place to raise kids, build equity, enjoy the mountains. But he wanted it done right. So he kept ownership and leased the land for 99 years. Next slide, the 1962 ground lease. I read Clause 7C, aloud. "Lessor reserves a 7-acre parcel around the existing cabin and retains all mineral and water rights." Then Clause 12B. "This lease shall be voidable if lessee restricts lessor's access or quiet enjoyment." "I didn't restrict anyone's access," I said. "Your HOA president installed a gate blocking mine." Someone in the crowd said, "That's true. I saw the gate." Next slide, the HOA Master Declaration from 2010. I highlighted the section claiming fee simple ownership of common areas. "When your HOA incorporated," I said, "someone should have checked who actually owned the land. They didn't. This document claims ownership that doesn't exist. You don't own the land. You never did. You lease it." The room was silent now. Even the TV cameras had stopped moving. Next slide, timeline of harassment. I read the eviction letter aloud, the part demanding I remove my cabin in 30 days. I showed photos of the gate installation, photos of my destroyed well pressure tank. I played the security camera video, grainy, dark, but you could see the white SUV, see someone with a tool at my well housing. "I came here to grieve my wife and grandfather," I said. "Your president turned it into a war." Final slide, the water rights certificate. One more thing, I hold senior water rights on this aquifer from 1961. Every home here draws from the same source. My rights predate yours by 34 years. Legally, during disputes, I have priority. The room erupted, people shouting questions. "Can he really cut our water? Why didn't anyone tell us this?" Brenda banged the gavel hard. "Order," Jim stood up. "One more thing," he said. He held up a spreadsheet. "The lease requires $12,000 in annual rent. We checked the HOA budgets going back to 2010. No rent has been paid. 15 years times 12,000 equals $180,000 in arrears." He let that number hang in the air. "But Mr. Webb isn't here for back rent. He's here for one thing, peace." I stepped forward again. "I'll withdraw the lease termination notice under 3 conditions," I said. 1, the HOA acknowledges my ownership in writing. 2, all harassment stops permanently. 3, the leadership that authorized illegal actions resigns. That's it. You keep your homes.
I keep my cabin. Brenda leaves. Brenda stood up so fast her chair tipped backward. This is blackmail. Pritchett tried to pull her back down. Sit down. We can't win this. She ignored him. You people are fools. He's manipulated all of you with fake documents and media lies. A woman in the front row stood. You told us he was a squatter. You lied. A man in the back. You tried to destroy his house. Another voice. You wasted $50,000 of our money on this. Tom Bradshaw stood. I move for Brenda Collinsworth's immediate resignation as HOA president. Another board member, quiet guy, hadn't said a word all night, said, seconded. The vote was 4-0. Brenda didn't abstain. She just stood there, face red, shaking. Then she grabbed her purse and walked out. The room was dead silent as the door slammed behind her. Pritchett looked at Jim. You could have taken everything, he said quietly. Why didn't you? Because my grandfather didn't buy this land to hurt people, I said. He bought it to preserve it. That's what I'm doing. Tom Bradshaw made another motion. The HOA formally acknowledges Marcus Webb as landowner, offers a written apology, and commits to peaceful coexistence. All in favor? 67 hands went up. 0 opposed. 1 person didn't vote. Probably someone who'd left with Brenda. The room erupted in applause. People stood. A few people clapped me on the shoulder as I walked back to my seat. Tyler Chen was grinning, typing notes into his phone. As I walked to my truck afterward, a woman stopped me. She was maybe 50, looked tired. My husband and I bought here 10 years ago, she said. We had no idea about any of this. Thank you for not punishing us for Brenda's mistakes. That's when I realized this wasn't just about me anymore. The new HOA board was elected the following week. Tom Bradshaw became president. 4 other homeowners joined him. People who'd been skeptical of Brenda from the start. People who actually read financial statements and asked questions. Their first official action was signing a formal acknowledgement of ownership. 1-page document notarized, filed with the county. It stated clearly, Marcus Webb owns the land in fee simple. The HOA operates under a ground lease. All prior claims of ownership were made in error. Second action, they removed the gate. Took it down completely, hauled it away, restored open access to the valley. Third action, they negotiated a lease amendment. We sat down, me, Jim, Tom, and the new board, and worked out terms that made sense. Rent adjusted to $25,000 per year, still well below market rate but fair. A 50-year extension option so homeowners had certainty. I retained all reserved rights, water, minerals, the 7-acre cabin parcel. The HOA gained clarity and legal standing. We both signed. The county updated the records. Title companies across the region scrambled to issue corrections for all 73 properties. I spent that summer getting to know my neighbors. A lot of people apologized for believing Brenda's version of events. I told them the same thing every time. You didn't know. She counted on that. Most of the homeowners turned out to be decent people. Retirees who wanted peaceful mountain living. Young families escaping city traffic. Professionals working remotely who wanted their kids to grow up around trees instead of concrete. We had more in common than Brenda wanted anyone to believe. Everyone valued the valley's beauty. Everyone wanted to protect it. I started sharing my grandfather's stories, how Harold bought the land in 1959 to protect it from further mining operations. The valley had been torn up by a copper company in the 30s and 40s. How he wanted families to enjoy the mountains, not corporations. How the lease was his compromise. Allow development, but keep it reasonable, keep it family-focused, keep the wild parts wild. That's when I got the idea. I worked with a conservation attorney and created the Harold Webb Valley Trust, a nonprofit. I donated 400 of my 847 acres to a permanent conservation easement. That land can never be developed beyond its current state. The benefits were immediate. It protected the watershed, guaranteed clean water for everyone. It preserved wildlife habitat. Elk, deer, black bears, eagles. It maintained property values because scarcity plus beauty equals demand. And it provided something the community didn't have before, public hiking trails. I worked with Colorado Parks and Wildlife to design a trail system, 5 miles of maintained paths connecting to national forest land. The HOA voted to contribute $15,000 per year from their budget to help maintain the trails. We had a grand opening in September. Harold Webb Memorial Trail System. About 100 people showed up. Families, dogs, kids on bikes. Tom gave a short speech about community and second chances. Tyler Chen covered it for the Tribune. The headline was perfect, from HOA war to conservation victory. I used the back rent settlement differently than anyone expected. $125,000. We'd negotiated it down from $180 because I wasn't trying to bankrupt anyone. I took that money and established a scholarship fund. The Sarah and Harold Webb Memorial Scholarship, $5,000 per year for 4 local high school students pursuing degrees in engineering, conservation, or environmental science. The first recipients were chosen that December. One of them was the daughter of the woman who'd thanked me after the meeting, the one who'd bought her house 10 years earlier in good faith. The awards ceremony was held at the community center, same room where everything had exploded 4 months earlier. I gave a short speech. My wife and grandfather taught me that land is temporary. We're all just passing through. But what you build with people, trust, community, legacy that lasts forever. After the ceremony, I went back to the cabin. I finally finished the repairs I'd been putting off, fixed the porch boards that had cracked during the well incident, hung my grandfather's World War II photo in the living room, planted Sarah's favorite flowers, purple cone flowers, along the walkway. That evening I sat on the porch and watched the sun set over the valley, my valley, but also everyone's valley. And for the first time in 3 years, I felt something like peace. So where are they now? I still live in the cabin. I volunteer with the local conservation board, help review development proposals, make sure nothing gets built that shouldn't be. Brenda moved away about 6 months after the meeting, sold her house at a loss. Turns out being internet famous as HOA Karen doesn't help property values. I heard she's in Arizona now. I don't think about her much. Tom Bradshaw's still HOA president. We have coffee once a month, talk about trail maintenance and county politics. The HOA's thriving, property values stayed stable. 0 harassment complaints in the past year. Tyler Chen's article won a regional journalism award for investigative reporting. He sent me the plaque. It's on my mantle next to my grandfather's photo. Rita Kowalski retired fully, but she still visits for coffee, brings cookies, tells stories about the old days when land records were kept in actual books instead of computers. What did I learn? 3 things. 1, documentation beats intimidation. No amount of yelling can overcome a recorded deed. 2, authority isn't ownership. Just because someone has a title doesn't mean they have power. 3, strategy beats emotion every time. I wanted to scream at Brenda every day for 3 months, but staying calm and methodical won the war. And maybe most importantly, your family's legacy is worth fighting for. My grandfather taught me that. Now I'm passing it on. If you're facing something similar, an HOA, a landlord, a boss who thinks they're untouchable, remember this: the law is there for everyone, not just the powerful. Use it. What would you have done in my situation? And if this story helped you, share it with someone who needs to hear it. I'm Marcus Webb, and this is my valley.